culture does that. That's white people. Okay, when you look at when you look at school shooters across the country, who do you see? White people. What is it about white culture that loves harming children? Okay, where are the white community leaders? And it's not just Chicago, it's nationwide. When you look at the U.S. Sentencing Commission, the statistics released by them, 83% of all people arrested for child porn were white people. Right? It's never going to change until we start taking some accountability at what's going on inside our culture. I'm sorry, I don't mean to get worked up, but it affects me personally. You know what I mean, Hucker? I completely understand, Jaundice. Thank you for taking the time to be with us today. You truly are one of the good ones. That's going to do it for us on Hucker Carlson tonight. Be sure to stay tuned for Sean Manatee as he talks about white-collar crime and why it may be whiter than you think. Y'all have a good night. Good evening. Thanks for joining us on Hucker Carlson tonight. I am your host, Hucker Carlson, and tonight we're going to be discussing the shocking news out of where else? Chicago, where more than 450 Catholic priests were.
Listen, it's midnight, and I don't want to be making this. I would rather be sleeping, so let's do this quickly, shall we? Actual experts about trafficking are decrying this movie. Not armchair experts like you smarty pantses in my comment section. They're saying it's giving a false perception of what child trafficking is actually like. The opening scene to this movie is a montage of children being snatched off the streets by strangers. So the majority of people who commit trafficking offenses must be strangers, right? Survey says, wrong. More than 50% of children are trafficked by family or friends. Here's another source. Family and friends, female child victims being more at risk. Oh, what does that say? 41% family or relative, 14% intimate partner, 11% friends. Also, I would like to draw your attention to this middle column of main sectors of forced labor. Illicit activities, 6% only. Still more than it should be, but far less than they would have you believe. Also, Sound of Freedom focuses almost exclusively on young children, when in reality, the majority of child trafficking victims are adolescents or teenagers. They also don't give a clear picture of what trafficking actually looks like if you're out in public looking for somebody that's being trafficked. Again, experts say that most people end up in trafficking situations because their family is in incredible poverty because of political unrest, or because the child is being rejected by their families for their sexual or...
The beginning, we were family. The beginning, there were no difference from each other. And if they were, it was just the...
I have 5 seconds to convince you to stop a woman from being raped. Simply while watching this video until the end, you'll not only be an accomplice to a murder, but you'll be making a direct impact on sexual assault in America. Most people skip this video, and most people will never understand how hard it is being a survivor of sexual assault. I'm also inviting you to leave because from this point forward, I'll be sharing a very personal story that is intended for a specific audience. When I was 8 years old, I would pretend I was a superhero, but not just any superhero. I was a superhero that only killed rapists. My mother had told me she had been raped multiple times in her life, and as a young kid, this is the only way I could think of helping. I was going to become the hero. But if you fast forward to my senior year in college, I was anything but a hero. My baby sister had been drugged, raped, and thrown from a car. I was 3 hours away with no resources, no money, and no way to help. Honestly, most of the pain I felt was from seeing my mother have to witness her daughter go through the same pain that she went through. I was broken. All I could think is every rapist on this planet has to die. All rapists gotta die. And I don't know if you were paying attention in the beginning of this video, but now you're my accomplice. Our first mission is to help 6,000 survivors this year with real support. Our goal this year is to create a space where survivors feel heard. They can share their personal stories. They have a voice, where survivors are no longer the victim, but a beacon for hope for other survivors. That's ARGD, a community that empowers survivors and condemns oppressors to the hell that they belong in. And this is only day one.
I never understood why cops don't like us. We have so much in common with the police. We're both portrayed negatively on the news. You can hear our cars from blocks away. Everyone gets nervous when they think we're following them. We're the only two people I know who can hop a fence in boots. We both bring our guns to funerals. I can go on and on. A man in Missouri is planning to turn an abandoned jail into an Airbnb rental, which will make it the first jail that refuses to accept black people. Police officer in San Francisco pulling over a driverless car, then the car driving away after the officer saw no one was behind the wheel. Even more amazing, he still managed to shoot an unarmed black guy. A 102-year-old woman from New York who survived the 1918 Spanish flu has now beat coronavirus twice, but sadly, she was no match for my car. A white student at the University of Kentucky was arrested after she was caught on video using a racial slur and assaulting 2 black students. She has been charged with 1 count of impersonating a police officer.
Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari, for the first time, denied months-old rumors that he had died and been replaced by a look-alike from Sudan. See, even Africans can't tell black people.
The worst cities to live in Maryland in 2023. At number 10 is Ocean City, and this small city of just 7,000 people each year hosts up to 8 million tourists. They have a crime rate 374% higher than national average, and every year they lead the state in property crimes. At number 9 is Westminster, where they have a total population of 18,000 residents, yet they have an overall crime rate 47% higher than the national average. And your chances of being a victim of a property crime while living there are 1 in 32. At number 8 is Hagerstown, and they have a total population of 40,000 people, yet they have a violent crime rate 37% higher than the national average. And the chances of you being a victim of a violent crime while living or visiting there are 1 in 42. At number 7 is Cambridge, with a total population of just 13,000 residents, yet they have a crime rate 50% higher than the rest.
I can help whoever's next.
Finally.
Sorry about that. Bit of a rush going on right now.
Well, it would probably help if you worked faster.
Right. Well, what can I get for you?
Yeah, I'll do the omelet.
Sorry. That's a breakfast item only.
So
we stopped serving breakfast at 11.
It's 11:45.
Which, if you're counting, is after 11 o'clock.
This is ridiculous.
Dude, can you just order?
Can you stay out of this? This has nothing to do with you.
It does when I'm behind you in line.
You're acting like this is my fault. He's the one refusing to make my food.
I told you we'd be happy to make you anything you want from the lunch menu.
I don't want something from the lunch menu. I want an omelet.
Then I'm really gonna need you to get out of line.
Oh my god, fine. I'll do a burger.
You gotta be kidding.
What?
We don't sell burgers.
I literally got a burger here last week.
No, you definitely did.
Oh, so now you're saying I'm lying.
I'm saying you're mistaken.
Just take my order.
Order something we have.
I just did.
Come on, man. What is wrong with you?
Wrong with me? I'm just trying to eat.
Get out of line.
No, I'm not gonna be treated this way.
Like what?
Are you serious? You clearly have something against me.
Probably the fact that you're a total dick.
What the hell?
Whoa. Okay, you two. Let's just take it down a few notches. Sir, if you don't mind just stepping out of line for a moment and reading the menu, I'd be happy to make you anything you want from those first 2 pages.
No, I'm not leaving my spot in line.
Sir, I really need you to move.
No.
Okay, well then I'm just gonna call the cops and let them handle it.
Call the cops and say what? That you're refusing to make food for a paying customer?
No, that you're refusing to leave and that you're trespassing. Now, if you'll excuse me.
We got a call about a disturbance?
Damn, you guys are fast.
Actually, somebody else called us.
Hey-o.
Sir, I'm being told you refuse to leave the premises.
That is bullshit.
They're refusing to serve me.
He's not ordering things we have.
You have omelets and you know it.
Regardless, they have the right to refuse service to anybody.
Okay, and
you're anybody.
this is ridiculous.
Sir, I'm not gonna ask again. Get out of line and leave.
Or what?
Or he'll arrest you. God, dude, do you really not know how cops work? I'm not asking again. Get out of line.
No.
Is it really worth going to jail over this?
Nelson Mandela went to jail for what he believed in.
Are you really comparing apartheid to not eating an omelet? Okay, I'm gonna count to 3, and then you'll be under arrest.
We shall overcome.
1, 2.
Reverse racism! Reverse racism!
3. Okay, sir, please turn around and place your hands behind your back.
Okay, you are all getting sued. All of you.
Hey, maybe if you're lucky, the jail cafeteria will sell omelets.
Taken on July 13th. We can see Jaden bringing Raja into the house at 2:24 p.m.
Off of raising the food that you eat, then grow your own fucking food.
Odin's fucking balls. This guy just doesn't stop. Whatever. I'm happy to take the free content at this point. Put point I stitched was, if you don't think farmers should be able to profit from growing their food, then grow your own food. Well, I got some unfortunate news for you, Tom. Farmers already don't profit from growing their own food. You want to know why? It's because a couple private companies have already bought up all the farmland they work on. It's because a couple private companies already bought up all the equipment they use to work that land. It's because a couple private companies owned all the seeds that they plant in the ground. It's because a couple private companies already own all the livestock that they raise. And if you think that those same companies are the ones that actually pay farmers for their work, you'd be wrong. You know who actually pays them? We do. Farmers in the United States get paid almost exclusively through federal subsidies, aka taxpayer money. And just so we're clear, I'm totally okay with my taxes going towards that. It's just another classic example of a couple people at the top reaping all of the benefits even though they're doing none of the actual work. I don't know if you've noticed, but the food industry has been reporting billions upon billions of dollars worth of record profit for the last several years in a row. But the people who actually produce the fucking food aren't getting paid from that. This is why we hate your precious capitalism so much, Tom. This is why we say shit like eat the rich. Now let's talk about your other point, the grow your own food part. I'm going to run you through a hypothetical, okay? Let's say I wanted to escape capitalism once and for all and go start my own little homestead. What would that require? Well, first off, I'm going to need a plot of land, so that's already a pretty penny up front. That land also needs to actually be suitable to grow food. You know, not all land is the same. If it's not, I'm going to have to learn how to terraform so that it becomes suitable. That's even more time, money, and resources. I'm also going to need a roof over my head, which, to be honest, I don't need much. I could make do with a simple one-bedroom cabin. But I'm still going to need to learn how to do basic construction just to make sure it doesn't fall apart if it storms outside. Not to mention, as far as the construction thing goes, I'm also going to have to figure out how to set up plumbing and find a reliable source of running water, because got to be able to water those crops, but also you got to stay hydrated, especially if you're doing physical work. And I got to be able to bathe, because you know, after working out in the dirt and the sun all day, I'm going to be smelling like a yak's ass on fire. I could potentially get hooked up to a public sewer system, but then I'd have a water bill, and that kind of defeats the purpose of escaping capitalism. So my only real solution is well water, and that's its own battle to set up. In addition to all that, you know, crops take time to grow and produce food, and I still got to eat in the meantime. So what are my options? I could raise some livestock, but like I said a few minutes ago, a couple private companies already own all the livestock, so I would have to get it from them first of all, which already pulls me right back into capitalism. But at the same time, you know, I don't think I'd have it in me to kill something that I raised. So my only option is to hunt and fish for my food. And, you know, I can ask my dad for tips on that. But now I have to get licenses, one to hunt and one to fish. Because unfortunately in the US, if you hunt and fish without a license, you will get hit with some very heavy fines, possibly even prison time. You can also only hunt and fish in certain areas. Otherwise you get hit with very hefty fines, possibly even prison time. We also have hunting seasons. You can only hunt certain types of animals at certain times in the year. If I kill a deer and it's not deer season, very heavy fines, possibly prison time. Even after all that, after I catch the fish or kill the deer or whatever, now I have to learn how to be a butcher, which I'm pretty sure is something people already go to school for years for, just so I can prepare the meat properly. And then even after all of that,
This video is for educational purposes only. As a former lifelong conservative and a former patch holder of a white supremacist organization, this statement cannot be further from the truth. He says, I am a conservative. The Klan is now and has always been a Democrat institution. It must suck to always be on the wrong side of history. While yes, the original Klan members were part of the Democratic Party, which was after the Civil War, they were former Confederate soldiers who joined this organization as a social club, which ultimately ended up becoming political. However, after the passing of the 1964 Civil Rights Act and the 1965 Voting Rights Act, there was a shift in political parties. Many of the Southern Democrats, the Dixiecrats, shifted to the Republican Party. And most people will argue that only one or two of the politicians actually made that switch. However, a large amount of Southern white evangelical voters shifted to the Republican Party after the passing of the Civil Rights Act and the dismantling of Jim Crow laws. I've never met a white supremacist or an openly racist person who did not support the Republican Party, and I've met a lot of them.
Let me tell you about the town that I grew up in Fort Pierce, Florida, where Trump's trial will be held. And this wasn't 50, 60 years ago, this was 20 years ago. When I was in high school, all the white redneck kids would wear Dixie Outfitter shirts with Confederate flags on them that would say, if the South would have won, we would have all had it made. Guess what they are? Conservatives, Republicans. And they'll be the first ones to tell you that they aren't racist. I had a friend who was a firefighter for 20 years, just retired from a fire department in South Florida. We were just out of high school and he had a 2-year-old daughter. We were at Walmart, and every time we'd go to Walmart, he'd buy her a gift. On this particular day, we were pushing the cart down the aisle. She was sitting in the cart, and she pointed at a brown Cabbage Patch doll and said, "Daddy, Daddy, I want the chocolate baby." He leaned in and said, "No, honey, you can't have the N-word baby," and kept pushing the cart. Well, as we pushed the cart away, she started screaming at the top of her lungs, "Daddy, Daddy, I want the N-word baby." He's a Republican that will be supporting Trump at the Trump trial. Another guy from Fort Pierce that owned a very successful construction company and is a large donor and member of a mega church in Fort Pierce. Prior to me going to prison, I sold my car to a drug dealer. I was really messed up on drugs. Well, him being a member of the church, he decided that he wanted to help me. We drove to get the car back. Outside was a bunch of black people, and he looked at me and said, "This is why they call them coons, because they only come out at night." He told me that there's 2 types of black people. Those people, then the good ones. He'll also tell you that he's not racist, and he's part of the church, and he donates. And these are the dangerous conservatives that I'm talking about.
We are not entering a recession. We are currently in the greatest depression in American history.
Let's make one thing very clear. No one ever needs an abortion. An abortion is the voluntary killing of a child that's still inside of its mother's womb out of convenience.
I'm going to guess you lived a somewhat privileged and sheltered life. I did too. And it wasn't until I joined TikTok that I started learning about the abuse women are suffering. I suggest you read this article from Jezebel yesterday. Calls to the domestic violence hotline have doubled since Roe was overturned. These are calls from women saying their partners are trying to control their reproductive choices. 15% of women experiencing physical violence from a male partner have reported birth control sabotage. A quarter of adolescent girls with an abusive male partner have reported their partner attempted to impregnate them by interfering with their contraception. Men who physically abuse their partners do it to control them, and now they can control them using their reproductive rights. And you have trapped these women with these abusive men. More importantly, you've trapped their children with these abusive men. I don't understand how you can claim to be pro-life and to care about the children, but you want them to grow up with an abuser. And so now what's your line? It's her fault. She should have chose better. She did it to herself. She did it to her kids. Is that the conservative line? A lot of these women don't have a choice. There are young girls that age out of foster care that have nowhere to go. There are many young girls that come from bad families, and sometimes their only out seems to be the guy that's sweet to them. But aside from all that, these are our bodies. We get to decide what we're going to do with them. Not you, not some Republican politician. So fuck off.
I want to make one thing perfectly clear. This clown duetted my video and wrote, "Party of love is love," wishing someone to get cancer because they have different views. Everything what's wrong with our society. Hateful leftists. Now, I covered his face and his handle because I know he used my video just to get traction on his page, and I'm not about to give him the satisfaction. But I get this comment a lot. Oh, the tolerant left. First of all, I didn't wish for her to get cancer. Saying I hope that the UV index was high on the one day she went to the beach would give her a sunburn at worst. as she's sitting on the sand thinking about abortion and mocking women's rights getting taken away. You really broke your neck with that reach, didn't you? She knows the consequences of sitting in the sun all fair-skinned. She's consenting to that. But hey, if she was responsible, she'd just use protection, right? But let me make one thing perfectly clear. I don't claim to be a part of the tolerant left. I don't tolerate racism. I don't tolerate bigotry. I don't tolerate homophobia, transphobia, misogyny. I don't tolerate people's rights getting taken away. And you bet your ass I don't tolerate someone celebrating people's rights getting taken away. I don't know if you're new to my page, but in my bio it says when they go low, I go lower. And clearly I can get low. I match energy. But when your Lord and Savior Donald Trump does it, when he's nasty, you cheer him on. But it's a problem when I do it. And I get it, because I'm coming for your side. And you're just mad that I do it better. You know what's the difference between you and I? I'll tell you. You're doing this for clout. You want to be the next Charlie Kirk. I saw your video when you met him at a convention and you got to speak to your idol. You had the same look on your face as I did when I met Justin Timberlake when I was 11 years old. You want the clout. You want the fame. You have 9 TikTok accounts. You have 100 subscribers on YouTube. You went out and used your own money to buy a little microphone and a little set and a little tripod so you can capitalize on far-right extremism. And good for you, bro. Get that bread. We all gotta eat, right? I don't do this for clout. I don't do this for money. I got money. I do this because people need to know what the fuck is going on. Because there's a lot of shit going on. I do this because I know history and I recognize it. You're just mad that I do what you're trying to do and I do it better. And I'm not even trying. I lay on my bed, on my pillow. I hold my phone in selfie mode. I don't got a fancy ring light because I'm passionate about the things I talk about. And I want to help spread awareness. And if I got to rip some jokes on some people because they act dumb and they say dumb shit, then so be it. You think a little joke is bad? You don't know what I'm capable of. So don't hate the player, hate the game. And maybe if you were doing this for the right reasons, you wouldn't need 9 TikTok accounts. And I don't have to tag you in the video because I know you're going to see it because you follow me. Thank you for that, by the way. I appreciate all my followers because love is love, baby. Anyways, bye.
So my dad is autistic and he's also a narcissist, and I mean that he's diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder and is actively working with a narcissism specialist in order to stop being a fucking asshole to everybody. I grew up with my dad undiagnosed with either, and when I tell you that the combination of undiagnosed autism and undiagnosed narcissistic personality disorder was a brutal combination for a father, let me give you my top 3. So when I met my dad when I was 10 years old, he was obsessed with categorization and obsessed with understanding personalities and like putting people in boxes to like better understand them. He really struggled after spending about a month with me because he didn't really know how to categorize me. And this was a conversation he had with me at 10 years old. He goes, I don't get it. Your oldest sister is smart, but not very pretty. Your middle sister is pretty, but not very smart. And you're just average. So like, I don't know whether to call you smart or pretty because I think that you're neither. Up until about 2 years ago, that's genuinely what he sustained, that he has 3 daughters. One is smart, one is beautiful, and one is just average. And that was me, just average. By the way, when I approached him about this when I was older, he's like, yeah, I still think that. And also you should be grateful that that's what you have because you don't have to live up to anything. Like you don't have to try to maintain your beauty and you don't have to prove to people that you're smart because you're neither. So being average is what you want to be. Fucking brutal. Okay, the second thing is when I was 15, I lived with my dad for an entire summer. Why? I don't know. Fuck me. In my first couple weeks, my dad pulled me aside and he said, I have to tell you something. He had taken my toothbrush and DNA tested me secretly without me knowing. And he was trying to prove that I was his daughter, okay? And when he told me this, he said, I'm really glad we got the test done because I realized since you've been living with us that I don't love you. Like, I don't love you in the way that dads should love their kids. I don't feel like that about you. I don't even really like you. And so I wanted to get the DNA test because I was 100% certain that I wasn't actually your dad. Because if I was your dad, then I would be biologically driven to give a shit about you. And I don't. I don't care about you at all. So now that we have the test, I know that I need to talk to someone about why I still don't love you. Can you believe? He literally was like, oh, I feel a lot better now. I'm like, me too. And lastly, I was sexually assaulted when I was little, and I was actively in therapy when I met him. And so I had told him about what had happened to me, and he said, compared to other people that I've seen, that's really not a big deal. You should be over it by now. It's like all bad things that have ever happened to me, I just don't feel anything for. I don't get why you can't do that. So good luck to his therapist. He has a lot of work ahead of him.
Here are 5 tattoos you didn't know the actual meaning of. First up, we got the stars on the knees. This is a symbol that somebody won't kneel down to authority, even though it started as a Russian prison tat. The 2% tattoo doesn't have anything to do with a person's milk of choice, instead shows that somebody has beat their addiction, which statistically only 2% ever do. The Omni is a reminder that doing bad deeds doesn't necessarily mean you are pure evil and is seen as a protection against bad luck. If you've ever seen this symbol and been confused, it means God is greater than the highs and lows. But I personally find the variation of this, I am greater than the highs and lows, a little bit more inspiring. And then we have the semicolon tattoo. A lot of people know what this one means, but in case you don't, this is for people who have struggled with or know people that have struggled with depression, suicide, and ideation. Here are 5 tattoos you didn't.
So I just got out of Walmart and I live in Texas, and as I am loading my groceries into my car, this old man comes up to me and he's like, would you like a bookmark with scriptures on it? And I didn't feel comfortable saying no because he approached me at my vehicle and was like standing in my space, and I didn't feel comfortable saying no, so I took it. But it just made me think, like, all these conservatives who are saying that like the gay agenda is being pushed on them and that queer people are just putting their lifestyle on them, but I have never had a gay person approach me in a parking lot at my vehicle and try to give me a pride flag, or had a drag queen come up to me and invite me to a drag show. And I just think it's so funny that so many of these conservatives who get so mad when they're the ones out here pushing their lifestyle on everyone else.
If you only watch one of my videos all the way through, this is the one to watch. I am so tired of seeing racism in my comment section, and I can prove their racism with math. So I'm going to talk about this one more time, and then I'm going to go back to blocking these people. So when conservative news sources look at race, they look at cultural diversity and violent crimes and see how they correlate. But the thing is, they're not that correlated. In statistics, we use something called the Pearson correlation, which measures correlations between -1 and 1. When you get down to -1, it means a perfect negative correlation, and +1 means perfect positive correlation. The closer you get to 0 is the closer you have to not having a correlation, and this number is only 0.29, so there's virtually nothing here. Furthermore, if you want to know where the most correlation is between violent crimes, other than firearm laws and stuff like that, it's always poverty rate. Across the entire nation, whether or not you look at national averages, state averages, or even city averages, no matter what, you're going to find that violent crime correlates with poverty rate more than it correlates with almost anything else, with the exception of legislation. But I know what you want. You want to look at race. People like this always want to use specific data to profile against people of color, so I'm going to play your little game, but I'm going to use math. So this is the kind of data that people like this are normally looking for. This spreadsheet shows race and ethnicity, but also the number of offenders per 100,000. But the thing is, it's not number of offenders per 100,000 people, it's number of offenders per 100,000 of that particular demographic. Now let's add income. And when we do, the math doesn't know what skin color these groups of people are. All the math knows is that these group of people make this much money and has this many offenders per 100,000 people. As far as the math is concerned, the race and ethnicity here is just a name for these rows. But guess what the correlative value is when you look at income? It's 0.67. That is a hefty value for social sciences, and much higher than the correlation between cultural diversity and violent crime. Much higher. The thing is, on this chart, if there was a correlation between the number of crimes that people commit and their skin color, but it discounted income, then this R number would be negligible. It would be super close to 0. That's not the case. And according to the data, people in poverty are much more likely to commit crime, no matter what their skin color is. Some groups make slightly less money compared to the number of crimes they commit, and some groups make slightly more, but the differences are negligible. None of these groups commit more or less crime based on the dollar amount that they earn than any other group, at least not enough to throw off this correlation. Oh yeah, and there's one more thing about violent crimes that we need to talk about. Violent crimes committed by police officers to people of color. Now, finding racial profiling, especially by police officers, is extremely difficult, but we can look at police shootings, and when we do, we find that Black Americans are killed at a much higher rate than white Americans. And since we know that they're not committing more crime than white Americans are, there is profiling in our police system. And here's the thing, when you sort by the states with the most black population, you'll find out that violent crimes aren't necessarily higher, but prison population definitely is. Which means even though they're not more likely to commit crime, they are more likely to be imprisoned, more likely to be killed by police, and more likely to be profiled by people such as this commenter. The color of your skin does not make you commit more crimes, but systematic oppression does make it look that way. So hopefully that helps, because this is the last time I'm going to say
there have been so many bomb threats nationally.
Go watch that guy's entire video if you haven't seen it already. I have a very important message for white men. The Republican Party is gone. It's being run by right extremists, and their followers, the right extremists that are violent, are ensuing hate in communities. And as of late, because of Trump's indictment, they have now called for a civil war. I started my content to try to avoid a civil war alongside other people who want to avoid a civil war. And we've known it's been coming, and it's here, and it's not like we're gonna go to battle tomorrow, but they've said it. They've said they want it now. They're not gonna back down and be like, we're good. No, we have two options moving forward. You have the war, or you don't, whether it's in 5 years or 10 years or in a month. It's here, and it will unfold. And for the white men who feel like they're unaffected right now and who stay quiet because they're living their beautiful, unoppressed lives, I want to paint a picture for you. And first of all, thank you, Jesse, for your content. You are incredible. You are a big reason that we might win this. And you are very good, so thank you. I want to paint a picture for white men. Picture this man going into Target, a store where nationwide there has been people walking in with guns and bomb threats, white men, threatening the lives of employees for having a pride section. And this man walked into his Target and said, "Where's your pride section?" Do you think that that employee felt an immense amount of fear when someone who looked like him walked up to her and asked that? Just based on the way that he looked. It's called a stereotype. And the loud, hateful, discriminatory Republican government and their loud, hateful, discriminatory, violent followers are creating a modern day stereotype for white men. I have like a Venn diagram in my head. Let me make it really quickly and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. I know this seems like a lot. It's not. Okay, I'll keep it simple, I promise. White men, whether or not you know a lot about what's going on in history today, I need you to stick around, okay? But a quick update for those of you that don't. Straight, white, male, Christian Republicans in that combination are running that side of that government. They have protected one demographic in society, their own. So even if you do not meet one of their criteria, they are passing bills that are harming everything that is not like them. Even if you are a white Republican Christian male, but you are not straight, you didn't meet the criteria, and they're passing bills that are harming the entire LGBTQ plus community. Don't say gay bills, banning books on their history and sexuality, banning life-saving, gender-affirming care, you name it, the list goes on, and it's getting worse. Straight Republican Christian male, but you're another race? No. Okay, so we're passing things, we're banning critical race theory in education, Jim Crow law in Mississippi, and trying to ban history about people that are not white through bills. If you're a white, straight, Republican, male, non-Christian, same thing. They're coming after the Board of Education in places like Florida to say we're banning all of the religions, all of the history of the religions through bills that are not like us. If you're a white, straight, Republican, Christian female, you would think you'd have a little bit of an in. You don't. Okay, you didn't meet their criteria, so they're passing bans and bills of things that harm everything that are not this. Full bans on abortion are killing women in this country. It's happening. There's lawsuits in Texas. There was a 10-year-old who was taken advantage of, if you know what I mean, who was forced to carry a baby to term. 10, because they do not meet their criteria. Okay, so that's the current state of our country right now. As for white men, this one right here, you cannot see these three things. So when the leaders of the Republican government choose bills like that, and the people who follow them choose violence like they are in the streets, they started with arriving at drag show brunches in masks and signs that say there will be blood, keeping women from going in Planned Parenthood, boycotting Chick-fil-A because they hired a diversity manager, shooting Bud Light cans because they had a trans advertisement, and now a civil war, taking to Truth Social and saying we need to start killing people. That's what happened. Look it up. When they do that, when the leaders do that, and when their followers do that, and we can't see these things, and they're out in the streets doing these things, you look like them. You look like them. So the stereotype that they're building for you is that you should be feared. That you should be feared. So if you're a white man and things start to go toward the path of a civil war, and they start to become more violent and more violent and more violent, and you sit by, your stereotype is growing and you are doing nothing about it. So if you're a white man, I urge you, especially like if you do it because you're unaffected and you're unoppressed and you have no bills that affect you, your stereotype will affect you eventually. You will be out in the street and people will fear you. And the best thing that anybody can do right now as a white man is just go educate yourself. I follow a ton of people who come on and admit that they did that. And then they're like, we're like, we welcome you. We love you. We love when people do that. I was ignorant about a lot of things in my life and I just educated myself. And if you're sitting there not doing anything because you're not affected, I'm just letting you know you will be. So I will help you. I will list all of the white men that I follow, that I respect the hell out of, who can help you learn. They're all backgrounds, walks of life, educating the masses on things like I am, and they look like you. Go follow them and go educate yourself so that at least if this gets worse and the stereotype is there, you feel really good about yourself. You feel really good about yourself. There's not a single man that I'm going to list in this entire list that won't feel good about themselves, even if that stereotype gets worse. So, to reiterate, if we can get white men on board and get loud about this, we can nip the civil war that the tiny little minute minority here is trying to incite on the entirety of the United States quickly. Okay, and for those of you who, I say optimistic, look at this, come on, you're a minority now in a very diverse United States. Imagine if you flipped every single one of these. You're not gonna win anyway. You have women in power, you have people not white, okay, other races in power, you have LGBTQ people in power, Democrats and non-Christians. Wait until they wake up and they're like, we're not doing this. We don't wanna be led by people like you. Like, what the hell do you think's gonna happen? So, white men can just help us nip it in the bud sooner, quicker, faster, so people don't have to die, okay? So please help us. If you're here and you're watching this, I will list everybody for you. And for everybody that I list, I love you. Thank you. Just like I thank Jesse, you are so important. It's unbelievable. I love you. Okay, goodbye.
Ron, I know what the fuck you were trying to convey. Manly strength, manly. I'm just going to be honest with you. That is a techno house beat. And you know what a lot of people do with a techno house beat like that? They rub their bodies together, Ron. Some of those bodies are men on men, women on women, and trans on trans. So far, what you have done is turned on a whole lot of goddamn people. Dun, 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 dun. Just imagine greasy, muscular bodies all rubbed up against each other, Ron, to your beat. You're welcome. Are you fucking equating yourself to Patrick Bateman from American Psycho, Ron? Patrick Bateman from American Psycho. Why is he in this video? Why is he in this video, Ron? Ron, what the fuck are you trying to tell us, dog? What are you trying to say? I equate to Patrick Bateman in American Psycho. Did you hear the name of the movie? American Psycho. You fuck it up, Ron. And Thomas Shelby from Peaky Blinders. The war hero who became a gangster who killed people. Ron, I don't think this is giving what you think it's giving. It really isn't. You're looking a whole lot like an incompetent killer. What are you trying to tell us with this ad, Ron? The fuck? Oh, you can fuck right off. You can get on the flying plane of fuck off and fly the fuck off. Achilles? You know what? Brad Pitt is Achilles. Brad Pitt, Achilles, and you ain't got shit in common except for the fact y'all have legs. Fuck all the way up out of here. Go. Get the fuck on. Ron, you are so full of shit right now, your eyes are brown. Get the fuck out of here with that one. Brad Pitt, sexy man Brad Pitt at the time, as Achilles. And you are equating yourself today, if you don't shit your silly ass down, you look like your head looks like Achilles' shield. It's got a dent in the middle of it. You are 0 for fucking up right now, buddy. Oh, you motherfucker. No, Ron. No.
Okay, y'all, I have something. I have something that can challenge the Supreme Court's protection of homophobia on the basis of religion. Hear me out. Okay, so first, let me just be clear that this does not apply to the 303 Creative case where the website designer could not be compelled to make a website for a same-sex couple because that was...
Apparently, Big Jake has a problem with me duetting a friend of mine, Boston Brian.
Spoke the names of Stalin, Mao, and Hitler when talking about education and saying that...
So let's hear what Big Jake's counter-argument is.
I don't know why y'all's always trying to equate us to people like that.
Oh, I don't know, Big Jake. Could it be the anti-trans legislation? Could it be the anti-LGBTQ legislation? Could it be the legislation turning women into livestock rather than independent citizens? Could it be the book bans? Could it be the anti-immigration legislation, even though they need the labor?
Put a little twist on that story just to make it seem like the Republicans and the conservatives are trying to indoctrinate your kids with...
None of those fascist GOP trends work for you? Okay, here's another one. How about the application of the 10 Commandments in all public schools? It's very separation of church and state, that one, isn't it?
Like Schnazi level stuff.
What? Like Republican fascism protesting against trans?
What he's saying is that those three men understood that to change the idea of an entire generation, you need to get to them young, school level.
Why stop at schools? Why not park your fascist GOP asses outside theme parks? Oh no, I forget. You're already doing that.
And they're around their peers. And then what they'll do is they'll keep you from your own kids.
Absolute nonsense, Big Jake. But then again, Christian homeschooling has such a wonderful record, doesn't it?
Now mom and dad both have to work.
You have a problem with predatory late-stage capitalism, Big Jake? You might want to consider voting Democrat.
And Joe Biden is claiming that your kids are his kids.
No, that's not what he said. He said when the kids are in the classroom, the kids are in the classroom.
It's the nation's children.
Well, looking at the quality of some parents in this country, the public school system could go a long way to deprogram some of the nonsense they're being taught at home.
We want to know if you're a fucking Jew, and if we let you into our house to film our fucking everyday ritual, are you a fucking Jew?
Y'all needed to quit your crap.
If we're so full of crap, Big Jake, why were you following me? Incidentally, I use the past tense because you no longer are.
Because the whole indoctrination thing, you've been doing it. That's what this whole LGBTQ thing is.
Teaching children in school that some families can have two mums and some families can have two dads is not indoctrination. If anything, it's deprogramming Christian nonsense. And one final thought, Big J, before you get all reporty. You came into my video. Don't tell me the GOP isn't fascist. We're doing it outside synagogues now, aren't we? And you guys all sort of look the same, don't you?
Hello, do you live here? Where are you from? Just coming in. I'm gonna stay, guys, okay. I'm Tom, by the way. You live here? Wanna do some weights? He's come in, he's back. He's getting amongst it. Yeah! House? You're in my home now, it's fine, don't worry. That's all I'm getting. Exercise brings us all together. Do you speak English? I think you're gonna take the weights. His shoes are coming off. Truly, this is just happening. Honestly, lovely energy. Look at that, old boy. I'll just sit down. I'm in the gym, you're just getting jacked full time. I'll just cross my legs. Tom? Your name? He just wanted to come in and get jacked. I think he was a bit curious more than anything. So I've just been on Google Translate.